I am sick of short form content, and I think if you clicked on this video, you relate in some way. I feel like I'm on the end of a conveyor belt and food just keeps coming and I'm full. I don't want any more, but it keeps coming. And when you look out, you see that in reality, I have my finger on the lever that is controlling this and keeping me full to the point of bursting. I feel like I'm going to burst. I feel like my head is so full of shit, of content, of random information, of this and that, and so many things that it's just so full, but there's no substance to any of it. And I think we all use it to feel relaxed. We do it when we're tired. I think we are more and more aware that we do it to shut off our brain, because that's what it feels like, is you just numb out and completely shut off your brain. And I think we're becoming more and more aware of that, which is good. You do it to relax, but then at the end you don't feel rejuvenated. I feel anyways, worse about myself. I'm like, why did I just waste all that time? And I'll be honest, my screen time I don't think is the worst, like out of the people I know, but it's gotten worse. And that's partially because certain barriers I had in place before, I've taken away in my attempt to become a content creator. I have had to take away these barriers that I used to have in place to prevent me from going on social media. And I'll get into all that later. But because of that, I'm on my phone more than I was before. And I hate it. I hate it. I think we all hate it. I think we feel like we are wasting our time. I think it's a natural human desire to want to feel like you've accomplished something, like you've contributed to something, that you've created something. And I think we're all in this kind of zombie state of consuming, and none of us are actually creating anything or contributing to anything. We're not thinking for ourselves even. Like these videos, a lot of it will be maybe educational, but it'll just be a quick fact here or there. And what you realize, like the amount of times in conversation when you're like, oh, I heard this thing, I heard that thing. But then if you actually had to like explain it for 3 minutes, you wouldn't be able. And it's like we have all this like superficial knowledge, but no deep knowledge on anything anymore. And I think as someone who has started creating content, I get a lot of content geared towards wannabe content creators, and so many content about like how to make a good hook, how to keep people, watching past the first second, and all these things. And the more of that I've consumed, I just see it everywhere now. All the content I consume, I just see how they're trying to grab my attention. And one kind of good thing now is that it works less now, because I see what they're doing. I see the visual hook. I see the auditory hook. I see the way they're manipulating what they're saying to keep me curious and interested in the first few seconds. And it's like a real psychological hack in a way. So like they do work because that's the way our brains are wired, to be curious and want to know what comes next. But because now I know that it's a hook and their goal is to keep my attention, I think it's a bit less effective now. But it has also made social media feel so fake, where every single video is just trying to grab my attention and keep my attention. And I don't want to give everything my attention. Not everything is attention worthy. So a study I was recently looking into for my Instagram page, in it they measured participants' brainwaves while they did an attention task, and were able to measure their brainwaves, and they found that those who reported being more addicted to to short form content had changes in activity to their prefrontal cortex and to their executive function, which are the areas that are responsible for self-control, planning of behavior, basically all the things that make us human. And those people also reported having less self-control in general. So clearly short form content is doing something to our ability to self-control and to manage and plan our own behavior. Again, it's not causal, so we don't know if these people already had maybe less discipline, less self-control, and that's why they were more prone to becoming addicted to short form content, or whether, which is probably less likely, and the more likely is that by consuming a lot of short-form content, we are changing the way our brain operates. I think everyone knows that the more time they spend on social media, people do feel like their attention span is dropping. And this creator, I think, has a great video on it, and in it she talks about the book Brave New World by Huxley. In his book, she talks about how everyone is on a hallucinogenic drug and are constantly in a state of pleasure. And that's kind of, I think, where we're at right now. In the book, he kind of warns us of being so accustomed to our own oppression that we voluntarily participate in this oppression. And she compares it to Orwell, who in his book 1984 kind of shows that he feared the banning of books, whereas Huxley, he feared not the banning of books, but that you would never need to ban a book because no one would ever want to read one. And I think that's, in a way, kind of the way we're headed, is that people don't want to do hard things anymore because it's not that they don't want to, but it's just, it's so easy not to. It's so easy to just consume and not have to put your mind to anything difficult. And I think the worst part about this is that I hate it, but I keep doing it. And I think a lot of people are in this boat. I think that's why you see so much content about how to quit social media, why quit social media, all those kinds of things, because I think so many people are noticing these issues and they hate it, but the problem is that we keep doing it. And I guess a thought I had the other day is that we all want to be able to consume it in moderation. We all want to be able to just use social media for 30 minutes a day and that's it. But the problem is that these apps were not designed for moderation. Their goal is to keep you on there for as long as possible. If they could keep you 24 hours where you wouldn't have to sleep, you wouldn't have to do anything else, and just constantly be on the app so that they can throw ads at you, that you can pay to boost your own content, all these things, then they would. And they're not designed for moderation. It's very difficult to use social media in moderation because they're not designed for that. Now, also, one thing that you hear a lot is like meditation, being more mindful about your usage. So I have a little funny story, is funny, not so funny. 2 years ago, I spent 3 weeks maybe 2 weeks in a Buddhist monastery with Buddhist nuns. Participated in a lot of their routines, but these nuns would meditate for an hour in the morning, have meditations throughout the day, and then meditate again before bed. They're nuns. I think when you think of the epitome of mindfulness and meditation, you would think of a Buddhist monk or nun. But there was a nun there who was in her 50s, and it was such an absurd experience to witness this. But she would sit on her phone, scrolling through Facebook Reels. Me and the other volunteers who were staying there would talk about how absurd this was, that she was so addicted to these videos. It would be like the most clickbaity, like think Facebook, like definitely made for older people, like Tom and Jerry videos and clickbaity, just stuff that probably you and I wouldn't fall for. And she would just watch video after video and sit there laughing, looking at her phone. This is a Buddhist nun, okay? This woman spends hours every day meditating. You know, we think that if we just meditate 20 minutes that we will be able to improve our addiction, but this woman meditates for hours every day, and she has been just as manipulated by the algorithms as you have. She would spend over an hour, maybe two at least. It really made me realize that these apps have not been designed for moderation. You don't need more meditation. You don't need more mindfulness. They have been designed to steal your attention and keep your attention. Obviously, those things can help if you're more mindful and just more aware that if you have a moment of mindfulness and realize you've been scrolling for 20 minutes, then you can use that to stop. Of course, it's helpful, but that's not the answer. Like, I think probably staying off completely is the best thing you can do, because I think in the early days, when we look back on the early days of social media, the early Instagrams, the early Facebook, they weren't sophisticated enough to know how to keep our attention for hours upon hours. They were chronological, so you would scroll and eventually you would get to the last thing you had seen the previous time you were on. And if no one you followed was posting anything new, then your feed didn't update. Whereas now there is an infinite loop. You would never be able to run out of things to consume. Whereas before you could. So you would scroll, be like, okay, there's nothing new here worth seeing, and you would leave. So I think before it was possible to consume in moderation, whereas now they're not designed for that, and it's really difficult to. I don't think it's impossible, but I think you're fighting a difficult battle because they've got all the best researchers and science and They study this, how to keep you on the app. So you're fighting a difficult battle, just you against teams and teams of researchers and people who are trying to keep you on the app. And I think one place where this is super noticeable now is in the algorithm. I don't know if anyone else has had this experience where maybe your algorithm gets messed up a little. Maybe you watch something that you wouldn't usually watch and you're on the app and you're not enjoying it as much. You could more easily leave because you're like, this is maybe repetitive or this is boring, or occasionally like, I'll watch a cooking video and I like that video, but then that's all I'm getting is food, and that's not interesting to me to be only watching food videos. And I think when the algorithm is so addictive is when it keeps on throwing these different things at you. It's throwing something funny, then something entertaining, then something inspirational, and then something educational. And another point about educational that I wanted to mention is that I think when we learn something new, we get a hit of pleasure that we've just learned something. And in a way, this app is actually teaching us things. And that's one of the reasons I wouldn't want to quit social media completely, is that I feel like I have learned things on social media, but again, it's all at a very superficial level. There's so many ways that the apps bring us pleasure, but back to the algorithm has been perfected so much to where my algorithm makes me happy, but if I had to spend time on anyone else's algorithm, I would probably be off the app within 5 minutes. And a tangent here is I've noticed a loss of pleasure in watching content that my friends or boyfriend have sent me. Also depends how much they're sending me. So before I would, watch everything they sent me, whereas now it feels like a chore. When I open up my app and I see that I have loads of conversations with lots of reels to look at, before it would be almost fun to go through them all and respond to everyone. Whereas now, sometimes I don't open my messages because I don't want to look at what they sent me, because it feels like homework. It feels like a chore that I have to watch someone else's algorithm for 5 minutes. Obviously, it depends how much that person sends you stuff. I think with the friends that are occasional senders or the family, it's easy to go and watch. But for those who kind of spam you, my boyfriend, I love you, and my mother, I do eventually go through it like it's homework. But it's incredibly boring going through someone else's algorithm in a way, all these things that they have picked for you or things that they find enjoyable, rather than I could just swipe and go onto my explore page, onto my For You page, and get everything that is tailored perfectly for me. And it's sad. I used to go on the app and see, a little notifications would give you a hit of dopamine. But now it's almost like dread. It's like, oh, I have more homework to do here, which I don't want to feel that way. I want to connect with my loved ones who are sending me things. Also, I think those people, I love you, but you need to get off the app. Why are you sending me so much stuff? Like, pick the best, because sometimes it's just too much. So yesterday I was thinking about Vine, and I was like, Vine was 7-second videos on loop. And for a second I had the thought, thank God it was bought by Twitter and essentially died, because what if I had Vine for years back then? So Vine was in 2013 and it only operated for maybe half a year, a few months, and everyone loved Vine that I know. I loved Vine. And so I had this thought that, thankfully it didn't last, because what if I was addicted? I had the opportunity to be addicted to my phone like I have the opportunity to be now. And I had that thought for a second, but then also it made me think, I don't know if Vine would have been as addictive, because back then I don't think the algorithm was sophisticated in the way it's sophisticated now. Yes, Vine was lots of entertaining videos, but I think it showed you mostly those that were popular. I think that's why everyone knows the same Vines, and there was a lot of kind of mediocre to bad stuff on there. Now it's over 10 years ago now, so it's hard to remember. But again, I don't think the algorithm had those same psychological tools like it has now, of sending you something sad, then something happy, then something educational, then something inspirational that'll keep you there. I don't think it had that. It was all kind of the same. It was a lot of funny videos, and that's funny, it's fun, but I think after a while you do get bored of watching funny videos. And I think you were able to also kind of run out of things to watch. There wasn't the millions of creators like there are now. Social media also, I don't know if this is just my experience, but has been feeling now like a multi-level marketing scheme. So let's talk about it. So an MLM, or multi-level marketing scheme, is essentially a business model where you make money by recruiting others into your business. So just in case anyone isn't aware, for example, you could be selling leggings. And you are only selling leggings because you were recruited to sell leggings. Someone came to you and said, be my business partner. I am selling these leggings and you have the opportunity to join my business. That person gets commission by you joining the business. A lot of times you have to buy inventory. You have to, in some way, you are buying into this. So by you joining, they are earning money, because you have had to spend money in some way in order to become a partner. And rather than to just focus on selling product, you focus on recruiting more people into this business, and you gain commission for every person that joins. So it's not even about the product and selling the product. It's called a pyramid scheme, and it's only the person at the top who first start recruiting people that is actually making any money. Everyone else is pretty much at a loss. And they're easy to fall for. They claim that you're going to make a lot of money, but in the end, you probably lose money. So why I feel social media has started to feel like that a lot. Now, again, it probably depends on my algorithm, but because I'm seeing a lot of content geared towards becoming a content creator, the amount of content that is trying to sell a course or a product on how to become a content creator, but not even just that, there's so much content on how to make content. The amount of content creators whose brand is about creating content, it just is it's so even hard for me to talk about, because it's so circular, where you are teaching others to become a content creator, but all you do is create content about becoming a content creator. It's so hard for me to explain, but I hope you get what I'm saying is that the amount of content I come across that is just buy my course to be a better content creator. And I think that's mainly where my frustration comes from. I think, okay, teaching other people how to do it is one thing, but when you've only become popular because of this desire for people to want to become content creators, it's kind of it feels inauthentic. It's are you actually providing anything of value here? Or are you only successful because other people want to become content creators? It becomes a lot more malicious when you're selling courses and ebooks on how to do it, when from the beginning all you've done is recruit people based on your ability to make content that attracts potential content creators. But it just feels like a huge multi-level marketing scheme. All these content creators talking about how you can become a content creator and be like them, and you follow them because you buy into that dream a bit, and very few of those people will ever succeed. So now I think that segues well into part 2 of this video, is trying to become a content creator while also hating short form content. I feel like I'm between a rock and a hard place. I would like to build a brand, and build a company. And through that, starting with content creation is a good first step to build a community and revenue in order to then build a company. And so I want to become a content creator, but at the same time I hate short form content. So how do I do both? Now you could say just post and don't consume on the app, just create, don't consume. But I find that difficult, because a lot of the advice also says you need to warm up the algorithm, you need to spend time on the app, you need to engage with other people in your niche. That will tell the algorithm what niche you're in, that will get people to see your comments, all these things all this extra stuff in addition to creating content. You need to spend an hour on the app before you post, and all these things which make it difficult. I would love to just post and leave the app and then just check in to reply to comments or anything like that. But a lot of the advice is, to be active. So that's difficult, number 1. Number 2 is I need to start doing the things that I've started to hate. So the things like the hooks, doing whatever you can to grab the viewer's attention in the first few seconds. It feels so inauthentic, but it's also necessary. When I look at my analytics on my videos, it works, it's necessary. Otherwise it's incredible how quickly people will scroll away. They don't even give the video 1 second They will be gone in 0.1 seconds if there's nothing that grabbed their attention to stay. So as much as I hate it, you have to, in a way, you have to be an active participant in order to succeed. So as much as I was complaining about creators using hooks and all these different things earlier, I do understand it because they're necessary. You have to use them to succeed in a way. Short form videos, a long chance, in a way. He would watch them for more than just a second. And whereas for me, I would, if I know where this is going and I don't like it, or if this doesn't seem interesting, I will scroll away fairly quickly. Maybe not 0.1 seconds, but within the first 3 seconds. Whereas for him, he would keep watching. I'm like, why are you keep watching for? This isn't going anywhere interesting or whatever. But now it's like, we need more people like that. We need more people to give the full message a chance. And then another thing, like I was talking about the multi-level marketing scheme, is that you do sometimes wonder, like, is this all a scam? They all say, like, just post every day and it'll work. But like, you do start to wonder, are they just saying that because they're profiting off of that message? Because people follow them and people listen to their advice. So it's a bit disheartening in that way. Like, is this going to actually work? So I don't know how I'm going to do it going forward. I think I would like to be able to spend less time on the app. But like I said, all this advice is about going through the most popular videos, saving them, analyzing them. So it's hard to do without being on the app and kind of analyzing for yourself what works by being a consumer. Because it's important to understand the content from, I think if you don't consume any content, some people might be able to make really great content because of that, but I think that would be the minority. I think most people would go on to make content that flops. But by consuming, you know what works, what's good, what you enjoy, and you're able to repeat those formulas. It's tricky. I think there's going to be a balance that I'm going to have to strike. And for now, I'm hating that my screen time has gone up so much. But I think it's part of the process, and I don't have an answer. One thing is that there does seem to be a shift of people kind of rejecting and hating short form content. Now, it's obviously a minority of people, but you do see the people who are talking about leaving social media, or about how much time you're wasting and all these things. So I think it's positive. I think, again, I had this thought where I think there is a difference between, it kind of goes back to Huxley's idea of being oppressed but not having a problem with being oppressed. I think the first thing you can do is just have a problem with the way you are being manipulated and that your time is being stolen by these apps. I think if you're going to continue to use them, I think there is a difference between the group of people that use them and don't care. They don't care. Like, I know people in my life that have huge screen times and they don't really care. They're happy to consume and consume. And it reminds me a lot of Brave New World and this idea that being happy with your oppression. Whereas I think if you can at least be disgruntled about it, be unhappy about it, I think it's still better. Know that you're being manipulated. Know that that your time is being stolen from you. And maybe you'll have a little bit more leeway to step away. That's it for this. The comments are an extension of the video. I will be there, and I want to have a conversation with you about whether you're related to any of these thoughts, or if there's, am I missing things, and let's just talk about it. Again, that will be our form of rebellion against these superpowers of Meta and TikTok. Please like this video so that more people can see it and we can have these conversations. It really will help me so much. And subscribe. I'm going to make more content about these things that have been on my mind that I think are worth discussing. Thank you, and I really appreciate you.